everybody, and welcome to this all-new episode of the Northern Virginia Sports Report. I'm your host, Monica Moore, and we have a great program for you tonight. As always, I'm delighted to be joined in the studio by Paul Frummelt from the Fairfax County Times and Phil Polizzati, assistant coach of the Lake Braddock boys lacrosse team. Well, before we jump into everything, we want to thank the folks that help make our program possible. First of all, our good friends at CCI Screen Printing for all of your screen printing needs. Also, special thanks to Craig Strabutzel and to Dan Sousa for all the photos and content they provide to us each and every week. And to our good friends at Triple Edge Lacrosse who sponsor our lacrosse segment. Don't forget that you can get copies of this program at www.pressboxvideo.com, and you can check out our website where we have highlights, interviews, updates, and more. You can become a fan of the Fairfax Sports Network on our Facebook page, and please do send us any comments, news, story ideas, or suggestions that you have. We love reading all of your emails. Well, as usual, let's start off with a couple of news and notes from around the area. First of all, definitely want to mention all the area football players who were recently drafted in the NFL draft, starting off with former Oakton standout Cody Grimm, who was drafted in the 7th round by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Also drafted by the Buccaneers was Brent Bowden, former standout from Westfield. We certainly have to mention Stonebridge standout Ed Wang, who was drafted by Buffalo. And then, of course, Larry Asante, former Hayfield standout, also drafted by the Cleveland Browns. And finally, we want to mention Potomac Falls standout Adrian Tracy, who was picked by the Giants. Well, so we've talked about some players who've moved on to play at the next level, some of our area high school students moving on to play at the next level. We certainly want to wish congratulations to Dylan Berger. The Stonebridge baseball player has announced that he will be continuing on playing baseball for Shepherd. And lots of area athletes recently having their signing ceremonies. Obviously, we've talked about a lot of these athletes when they announced their college commitments. But today, over at Dominion High School, they held their signing ceremony for a couple of athletes. Alex Rizzo going to the Naval Academy, Kimberly Ledwell and Hannah Donovan all having their signing ceremonies today over at Dominion. And then Loudoun County, all the athletes recently on April 28th having their signing ceremonies, couldn't even fit them all on one page. There are so many athletes from Loudoun County, starting with those basketball players, Alyssa Kane. We talked so much about her this season, and her teammate, of course, Kendra Holmes. Some football, soccer, and track standouts as well for Loudoun County. And then finally, Potomac Falls having their signing ceremony on April 29th. You see all the standout athletes for Potomac Falls who are moving on to play their respective sports at the next level. So we certainly want to wish congratulations to all of them. All right, well, let's jump into our Triple Edge lacrosse segment. So Paul, Phil, what's been going on in lacrosse over the past few weeks?
Hi everybody, Paul Frummelt with the Fairfax County Times and Phil Polizzati, assistant coach at Lake Braddock. Yeah. So Phil, we're going to talk about Westfield here in a second, but what are some of the teams early on, in this week, really showing you?
Well, with the tournament happening starting this week, looking at last week's games and early this week, there were a couple upsets. You had Oakton beating Robinson, which was very interesting. You had Woodson losing to Westfield, and we'll talk to Coach Dilley about that a little bit. So those are two big games that are leading into this tournament that are going to make things interesting.
And we do have Westfield boys head lacrosse coach Brian Dilley on the line. Brian, can you hear us?
I can. Thanks for having me.
No problem, Brian. So first things first, you guys are riding a 4-game winning streak and the big win against Woodson. Can you talk about what that win meant to your team?
It meant a lot. Woodson is a great opponent. It gave us a really good look for further on to the postseason, but it really meant a lot to the kids. They beat us last year in the regional, so the kids were kind of looking for a little bit of redemption in that game.
Yeah, looking back last year, that was, I'm probably thinking that was a little bit upsetting, and this definitely set the stage for you moving forward into your district tournament. With that, were you a little surprised looking at the the Oakton-Robinson score yesterday?
No, actually, I wasn't really all that surprised when we played Oakton earlier in the year. They had a lot of looks against us that they just didn't finish on.
Right.
And we were fortunate enough to get out of that game the way we did.
Yeah.
But to me, Oakton was just a couple passes here or there from actually putting together a big run against us in that game. So the fact that team has turned it around is a credit to their head coach and that staff. So
Westfield Bulldogs 9-2 right now. They did beat Oakton 9-4 very early on in the year. But talk to me, Coach. Talk to me about Eric Alter for a little bit and what he brings to this team.
Eric brings a great leadership, very big presence on the field. He's seen the majority of the long poles and the shutoffs all through the year, which of course allows the rest of our team to be able to focus offensively after that. It helps us, key on different players and go from there. But he's more of a leadership force. As of late, he's been taking face-offs, covering the wings for us, and he's doing everything just to help out right now.
Yeah, I think a couple weeks ago I had mentioned that he's like a do-it-all guy on the field. I mean, you put him in offensively, obviously he's very explosive and dynamic, and then even defensively when he's going down and he's playing some defense for you, he's very aggressive, under control aggressive, but he's just tenacious all over the field.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mentioned that Woodson win. That was a 13-12 win over the Cavaliers. Also had a 9-8 loss to Chantilly and a 2-goal win over Stonebridge. These close games, how much are they going to help you with the district tournament starting?
I think every game is just a learning experience for us, and it just further moves us along our journey. The Stonebridge game was good. I think that was the first time our defense really started to come together, and now we're beginning to see what they can do as a unit. And the close game just it really tests them and tests us as a team just to see what we can put up with, and it just makes us work that much harder.
Yeah, it looks like you could either play the slow down game, when the other team wants to slow it down and make it a defensive battle, and then scoring 16 goals, 13 goals, 14 goals. It looks like you're able to change the tempo a little bit and run with some teams as well. That's got to be great confidence going forward.
Absolutely. That's just the way you kind of want to play lacrosse, is just being able to run and gun when you can, and then when you got to slow the tempo down, you want to be able to control the game and work some clock, and then go back to that run and gun style when you get that chance. So.
Yeah. Is that your preferred style, Coach?
That is.
Yeah.
I think every coach wants to be able to control the clock, control the game, but when you can get the transition points, that just adds to it.
Yeah.
So first round of the Concord District tournament against Centerville, a team you beat 14-5. How do you keep the kids level-headed after you beat a team by 9 goals?
We just really focus on, we didn't have a perfect win. So you kind of just try and key on the things we didn't do well, and we tell them that we got to improve from there. It helps the fact that, I have great senior leadership, and they have been just, we may have these big wins, but we still got to go out and work the next day and work hard and continue to progress.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's Brian Dilly, the head coach of the Westfield boys lacrosse team, right now 9-2, riding a 4-game winning streak, heading into the Concord District tournament. Coach, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, so talking about Westfield, Phil, now let's move right into our top 10 Triple Edge boys lacrosse rankings, see where Westfield lands, and Westfield right there at number 6. But let's go through these teams here, because you have Langley, and it's actually West Springfield at number 2, but Langley there at number 1. Obviously, they deserve to be in the top spot.
Yeah, and since West Springfield had lost to Woodson, almost 2 weeks ago now, it was going into that, it was a consensus West Springfield, but since Langley has taken over that top spot with West Springfield's loss, I think it's going to be their tournament to lose, both in the district and in the region. I feel strongly that they got a good squad, both offensively and defensively. They've got players up and down the roster that are D1 material, high-level D3 material, and Coach Brewer and his coaching staff do a heck of a job over there. So it's going to be fun to see how they progress in their Liberty District tournament, but it should stay true to form.
But West Springfield, they bounced back though after that loss.
Yeah, and that doesn't surprise me that they bounce back. I mean, they've got a quality club. They play great defense. Goalie's good, and they're explosive. And they can put 20 goals on the board. In a snap your fingers. But I think the loss of a couple players, for disciplinary reasons, and that hurt them a little bit. And I think they had to find themselves, and they came together after that loss. And I think they made a conscious decision that they're not going to let that ruin their season. So, they've got the number 2 seed in the Patriot moving forward, and I think they'll be just fine. They'll be just fine.
Okay, looking at the Concord District, we saw Westfield, and they are there at number 6. Chantilly and Robinson, though, Chantilly at number 3.
Right.
We talked about the first round of these district tournaments. You see West Springfield there at number 2 now. But Chantilly, Robinson, Westfield all playing very well. And don't forget about Oakton as well. They're coming on.
No, you can't forget about Oakton, especially after their win over Robinson. And Chantilly was a team early in the season that people were saying, I don't know if they're going to have enough. And, lo and behold, they're third, ranked in the poll. And, they've got a quality team. And Coach Broderick, again, and his coaching staff put together a very disciplined program. They do everything the right way. And, they're winning tough games because of that discipline. And that's going to bode well for them moving forward in the Concord District tournament. And now with Robinson, Oakton, and Westfield, that could be a crapshoot, though, quite frankly. Because, you look at the 2, 3, 4 seeds there, all had one loss. And, they basically had to draw numbers out of a hat to see who was going to be seated wherever. So Robinson got the 2, Westfield got the 3, and Oakton got the 4. So that 4-5 game is going to be a doozy between Oakton and Herndon.
Hey, don't forget about Herndon there. And my apologies to the Hornets. Yeah. They're there at number 10. So for you, as in the Patriot District, which district scares you the most? You get the Liberty with Langley and Stonebridge, or the Concord?
I don't know if it's which scares me the most, Paul.
Well, because you're never scared.
Right. No, well, you look at each team and you say, okay,
worries you maybe?
Yeah, they're a scary team, but they are scary. Because they can do everything. They can play defense if you play the slow down game, or they can run and gun, as evidenced by in the Langley with the Liberty tournament district with Langley and Stonebridge, where they can put 20 goals on the board. So you're scratching your head literally, saying, well, I don't know which team I want to play. You just got to go out and you got to play your style. You play your game. Hopefully your kids can execute your game plan, and let the chips fall where they may. The Patriot District, you've got top 3 teams are very good, very, very good, and they can play with the top 4 or the top 3 in the Liberty or in the Concord.
Yeah, Liberty, there's Madison, there's Langley, there's Stonebridge. The top 3 is really good there. So it's it's the northern region.
Right.
It's boys lacrosse. A lot of teams are going to be good. But let's take a quick breather, Phil. Let's kick it back to Monica Moore, and we'll be right back after her.
Okay.
All right, well, we've been talking a lot about this Oakton team, so we have some highlights for you of a game that Oakton recently played out of district against a very strong Broad Run team. Of course, these two teams have so much tradition. Andrew Leonard getting things started off number 3 for Oakton, and then a nice goal there behind the back. So Oakton got things firing on all cylinders in the early goings of this one, but should definitely mention Ricky Sinclair scoring a couple for Oakton. Is that Oakton was missing 3 of their top players coming into this one, banged up with some injuries. They've returned, but Broad Run able to answer after Oakton getting off to this big start. You see lots of offense in this one, both teams with a phenomenal offense, and a beautiful save right there by number 16, Matt Lapiano for Oakton, a sophomore goalkeeper. Ryan Madigan, number 9, scoring some goals, and Andy Londos, number 22, bound for Mount St. Mary's. You see his skills there. Will be moving on to play at the next level, and then a nice feed from Londos to Corey. Londos really did a great job on offense for Broad Run. Another big save by Lapiano there, and then Madigan coming around behind the cage, getting it in the back of the net for Broad Run. Nice move right there by Jason Chancellor, who started heating up during the second half for Oakton, one of their top offensive weapons, but Andy Londos. Every single time the Cougars were knocking on the door, Andy Londos found a way to find the back of the net. Nice look inside from Londos to Corey. Beautiful save by Matt Lapiano. Again, only a sophomore for the Cougars. Really going to be a great goalkeeper for them. And then on the other side of the field, Tyler LaFollette for Broad Run, the keeper in the cage for the Spartans. So Oakton trying to launch the comeback here, trying to counter the offensive weapons. Jason Chancellor, nice spin move by Chancellor. Again, trying to handle the fact that some of their weapons not in this game. Madigan with a nice exclamation point there, and then beautiful passing, finding Chancellor. And so there you see it at the end of this one. Broad Run 13, Oakton 11, even down 3 of their top players. The Cougars really hanging in there and have since gone on a tear. But it was Andy Londos and Ryan Madigan having a great day for Broad Run. And of course, their new head coach, Ryan Richardson. Lots of people in the area very familiar with Coach Richardson, who coached for West Springfield before moving over to Broad Run to coach the Spartans this year. I was able to talk with Ryan Richardson and the player of the game, Andy Londos, at the conclusion of that one. I'm standing here with our player of the game, Andy Londos, and head coach Ryan Richardson. Now, Andy, obviously this is a scrappy Oakton team. They got off to a quick start. Can you talk about your team's composure to stay in it early?
I mean, since 2 years ago we played them in the state, I think, quarterfinals. So we definitely had a chip on our shoulders when we lost to them. But, I mean, the guys just kept it up. And our attack and middies and defense, everybody all around just played great. We just kept up the hustle and never gave up, I guess.
One thing I noticed that your team does so well is from behind the goal, looking for the cutters. Can you talk a little bit about how you run that offense?
I mean, Ryan and me have been playing since 3rd grade, and I mean, we always know where we are on the field, and we've been practicing that all year, and I mean, we just execute in practice, so then we have to bring it to the field.
5 goals on the night. Which was your favorite, and take me through it?
I don't even know. Like, I guess all the passes from Ryan. Just, I like playing team offense and taking one. I mean, it's all right, but just the team play is amazing because we have great chemistry and it's great.
Coach, what were you most pleased with about your team's effort tonight?
I think the fact that we overcame a lot of penalties. I think we must have been double digits easily in penalties. I know we had a very chippy game between the two teams. Oakton's very young, and I think they're going to get better every game. And Coach Barheit's going to have a heck of a team in the next couple of years. To be honest with you, I was just happy that they kept their composure throughout the whole game and didn't give up when the chips were down. Everything was against us. I told the guys the only thing you can control is that scoreboard, and that's the most important thing.
Obviously, it's great to have players on your team that can finish, and you have 3 phenomenal players, of course, in this young man right here, Ryan as well. Also, Nick, can you talk a little bit about your offense?
For the most part, I mean, it's a new offensive system. I mean, no one's really seen a lot of it down here. And, coming from upstate New York, I figure I bring a lot of that down here. And, we surprised a lot of teams early in the year, a lot of close losses. I mean, Loudon Valley, Woodson, and Robinson are all great teams. And, we had to get rid of the mental mistakes early on, and eventually we've been cleaning up those mental mistakes. I know tonight, obviously, it wasn't our best game, but it's a good game because it gets the monkey off our back from Oakton. We were 0-3 in the state playoffs, and this game I felt was very important for them to win.
Obviously, Oakton there at the end really trying to come back. What were you saying to your guys during those last few minutes?
Just to keep your composure, move the ball around. Don't let them, force you into the double team. Just, when we were under 2 minutes, just keep the ball in the box. Look for the great look. If the great look's not there, just keep running around in the box until the time's out.
And we talked before the game, obviously, those close losses early in the season. How important is it to get a win like this at this juncture of the season?
It's huge. I mean, Oakton traditionally has had a great team. I know Coach Barheit in his first year, he's gonna have a heck of a team down the road. And I think for the most part, this team, Oakton never gave up, and they kept it close, the whole game. And I told the guys, you just got to keep your composure and fight through through everything, and we did. And I'm happy with the win, but I can't be happy as a coach because I never can be.
All right, so Broad Run still looking to take away from this one and improve going through the season. All right, so Broad Run getting the win over Oakton, but then guys, Broad Run squaring off against Stonebridge in that phenomenal Stonebridge offense. So let's talk a little bit about when the Spartans met up with the Bulldogs.
Yeah, Stonebridge winning 17-8 over Broad Run. This was on May 1st. The Maltz brothers, Derek with 7 goals, Dylan with 4. And just a lot of different players for Stonebridge contributing 17 goals. I mean, that's what Stonebridge has been doing, that they can score.
Yeah, every week you look at this box score and they've got multiple guys with multiple goals. I wish I had that problem, at Braddock. But, and as we said, Stonebridge is going to be one of those teams that I don't know if you really want to play, in the playoffs, because they're just going to keep coming at you, Broad Run is, and when you get into that state tournament, they're going to be a team to reckon with.
We saw what they could do against Oakton early on.
Right.
Tyler LaFollette, the Broad Run goal, he also had 17 saves
Good night.
to go with allowing those 17 goals. So, I mean, Stonebridge, they're going to pepper the goal.
Yeah, that tells me they played a lot of defense, though, too. So you've got to, you've got to try to balance it out. When you're playing a team that's going to run and gun, you've got to try to slow it down a little bit. Maybe, doing a deep off ride, something to keep, once you get possession of the ball, get it down there, take some time off the clock, and then run a deep off ride if the ball goes out of bounds. Something like that where you can, give your guys a breather. Because if you're going to see a lot of shots, you got to get those guys in and out defensively. To give you an opportunity to win.
Well, let's go back later last month, April 23rd, the West Springfield-Woodson game that we mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Right there, 13-8 in favor of Woodson. Marcus Berry, a sophomore, is that right?
Yeah.
Sophomore Marcus Berry, 4 goals, 3 assists. Zach Hart had 3 goals for the Spartans. So we talked about this game. Interesting to note that it was Woodson that knocked out West Springfield in the regions last year. Yeah. Now Woodson moves into the Patriot District this year. You got to imagine what West Springfield had this game circled because of the fact that Woodson ended their season. That West Springfield was on a 9-game winning streak heading into that game. They were on a 9-game winning streak heading into this game. But Woodson seems to have a good game plan against the Spartans.
Well, it starts with defense, and Woodson plays a heck of a good defense. That's Coach Fitzgerald's forte. And, once you get the defense set and you're able to now get the ball down and transition and play good, solid offense, they, early on, Woodson's traditionally, it's funny, because early in the season, they don't find their way. They're trying to find their legs. They're trying to get going, and they always seem to have a little bit of problem. But then mid-season, and then at the end of the season, look out. And that's what happened in this game. I think they finally clicked offensively, and, you saw Marcus Berry with 7 points, and, we had the displeasure of having to play them the other day, and, he was on fire there too. I mean, he was sticking it from down low. He was cranking it from up top. And they have some great attackmen, Davis Mayberry, and a couple other guys that are very complimentary. So they can play the inside game and the outside game now offensively. And if they get clicking,
One thing I did notice about this game, 5 goals for West Springfield in the fourth quarter.
Right.
I mean, they did not give up.
No, and that doesn't surprise me either, because let's face it, what are they averaging? 15 goals a game, 16, 17 goals a game. So, regardless of how good the other team's defense is, they're still going to score. You're going to have to outscore them to win. And that's what's going to have to happen in the Patriot District playoffs.
We talked about West Springfield falling to Woodson, and we also talked about how they bounced back so well. So let's jump into the April 27th game. Their next game, the Spartans' next game, and you see what they were able to do. 18-2 over Lee Schauder with 2 goals, 9 assists, 11 ground balls. Zach Hart, 2 goals, 5 assists. So, I mean, you see them how quickly they were able to bounce back.
Yeah, and Eric Schauder was the Patriot District Player of the Year. We don't have all those names in front of us. They came out late, but and he deserved it. And that was one of the reasons. If you look at that, 2 goals, 9 assists. Okay, that tells me he's the quarterback of that offense. If he's going, they're going. So it's just in their games, it's a matter of, okay, pick your poison. Are you going to try to shut him off? Okay, now you're leaving open all these other guys that they can play. But if he gets rolling and he's driving the cage and he's looking and he's seeing through the crease to the backside, or he's seeing to the crease and he's able to feed, you're in trouble.
All right, so that's a little bit of the Patriot District. We're going to jump over to the Liberty District real quick and look at the Liberty District tournament pairings. And maybe you're not allowed to say this. I'm allowed to say this. Jefferson, McLean, and Marshall, they're in trouble. I think they're in trouble. Just looking at Langley, Madison, and Stonebridge, and we know what they're able to do.
Yeah, it's. I think the South Lakes Fairfax game is going to be a pretty good game. Okay, South Lakes beat Fairfax the first time. I believe it was 12-7. But the other 3 games, it's going to be tough for those other 3 teams.
I mean, this is locker room material, board material right now. But I just think it's going to be tough. But stranger things have happened.
Stranger things have happened. That's right, Paul. And you never know. You don't ever want to count a team out, but you've got to, realistically, you're probably right.
So the semifinals on May 10th at Marshall High School. It's a doubleheader, 5 p.m. and 7 p.m.
Right.
And the finals, the 14th of May at Marshall at 7 p.m. So let's look at the quarterfinals and the dates for the semifinals and finals for the Liberty District tournament. Staying in the Liberty District, let's talk about the Liberty District first team all-district players, and Sobolski from Madison, Bailey, Langley. I mean, these are a lot of the names that you expect.
Yeah, the one that you didn't expect was the freshman Maltz, and I believe it's Dylan, correct?
Yeah.
And that was the one, that's a surprise to me, and I'm sure to a lot of other people within the region, because nobody, you knew he was going to be decent just based on the lineage, but the fact that he did make all-region as a freshman is all-district as a freshman is pretty impressive. Then you look at the rest of the all-district team there, and there's some good names there. These kids are really good players.
You want to know why Langley is the top-ranked team by Triple Edge Lacrosse? 3 of their defenders include, Thomas Robinson, one of the best defenders in the area.
Yeah. All 3 of those guys are fantastic players, and now you got 2 from Madison also. So that tells me that, hey, Madison can play some defense too. They can score, they can play some D. So that district, those 3 top 3 seeds, that's going to be fun to watch. As is the other districts, but that'll be fun to watch. So.
Let's take a look at the Coach of the Year. That's Scott Mitchell. Actually, I can just tell you, Thomas Robinson was the Defensive Player of the Year. Maltz and Sobolski, Co-Offensive Players of the Year. I have no argument with that at all. No. Let's go over to the Patriot District. That's your district. It's your expertise. Let's take a look at the tournament pairings. Woodson, West Springfield, Annandale, and Lee all hosting first-round games. Your Bruins playing Lee. That's a 5-4 game.
Yeah.
So. What jumps out at you, and does West Potomac, South County, T.C. Williams, again, those top 3 seeds, do they have a chance against the top 3 seeds?
Well, if I was to sit here and tell you they had a chance, somebody would probably say you're lying, but you don't know. T.C., Annandale, Annandale beat them by, I think, maybe 10 or 11 goals the first time. If they play that slow-down game and Annandale has a bad night shooting or their goalie doesn't play well, maybe it's a closer game. The other 2, that's going to be tough. It's going to be real tough for West Potomac and, and South County. Our game, it can go either way. And I'm not going to tell you we're going to win. I believe we can win. I want to win.
What do you have to do to win?
We have to do the same thing we did the first time. We have to shut down. We didn't shut him completely down. He got 2 goals, had a couple assists. Our defense played very well. We've got to shoot better, and we've got to control the ball a little bit. If we can shoot better, we've got a good chance. We had a few pipes. We hit the goalie in the head a couple times. Our goalie played very well. I think he had 14 saves in that game, and if he continues to play well, we've got a chance. If he doesn't play well and we don't shoot well, we're in trouble.
Again, just like the Liberty District, that 4-5 game looks to be a really exciting, important game. So definitely take a look at that one on May 6th. But right now, me and Phil are going to take another breather and kick it back to Monica.
All right, so let's take a look now at the other two districts and their tournament pairings. So first of all, let's start off with the Concord District. And talking a little bit about the Concord District, we've talked a little bit about those teams. Chantilly has a bye, Robinson has a bye. We've talked about Westfield squaring off against Centerville. We talked with Coach Dilly about that. And then Oakton squaring off against Herndon. And then in the National District, we'll show you what those rankings or what the tournament pairings look like. Washington and Lee, #1 seed, squaring off against Wakefield. You see Hayfield versus Edison, Yorktown versus Falls Church, and Mount Vernon versus Stewart. And so for all you other districts out there that haven't yet sent us your honors, please send those in and we will certainly highlight your first team on next week's episode of the show. But we've been talking about some of the top teams from around this area. We want to show you two more because last Friday, Loudoun Valley squared off against St. Stephen's and St. Agnes, two teams that have so much Division I college talent on them. So we're going to show you the highlights of this game. It was close early on. Loudoun Valley able to hang with the Saints. You see shots being fired on all cylinders. Number 23 for the Saints, Ben Levy, their Syracuse-bound goalkeeper, had a great game, but number 16, David Solomon, that's a name you want to remember if you're a lacrosse fan. He's headed off to the University of Maryland next year, really putting on quite a performance. Chris Daddio, their number 5 for Loudoun Valley. And then Dylan Zook, #1, scored a couple of goals for the Vikings, but it was just not enough. The defense, Richard Pastorino getting into the effort. Two defenders scored for the Saints in the early goings, which really gave them a spark offensively. Pastorino and Dyson, number 40 for the Saints. Big hit there by the Saints. But so the Vikings able to hang with the Saints in the early goings, but little by little the Saints were able to push away, particularly in the third quarter. Just gave quite a shooting performance. Number 6 for the Saints, one of the players having a huge game. It was Peter Labovich. Nice spin move there by Solomon with the feed to Labovich, number 6, who ended up with 3 goals for the Saints. Chris Daddio with a spin move, big shot past Ben Levy, the goalkeeper. Quite an offensive display. And then Labovich with his 3rd goal of the game. Now getting into the scoring action for the Saints. They really spread around the offense quite a bit. Very impressive offense. Lots of different players involved. David Murray, number 9, as well with 3 goals. Dylan Zook firing for Loudoun Valley, but just not enough. Dyson looking ahead to Murray right there for one of Murray's 3 goals. 3 different players for the Saints scoring a hat trick on the day. David Solomon finding the back of the net, number 16. There you see it. 3 players with a hat trick. Dylan Zook trying to answer. I did get to speak with our player of the game, David Solomon, and head coach Andy Tybel after the Saints got their big win. All right, David, well, you guys seem to come out after halftime with a renewed focus and intensity. Can you talk a little bit about how you felt going into the second half?
The third quarter's always been something we've kind of go out and work hard to get. I mean, all year we've third quarter's been our quarter all year. He gets us fired up, tells us what we need to do. We kind of fix our mistakes and talk about what we're doing wrong and where we need to improve. And we just came out and we took care of what we needed to do, and things turned out how we wanted it to turn out.
Now, Loudoun Valley is known for their defense. It's been a bit of a trademark for them. So can you talk a little bit about your offense and what you think your unit was able to do well today?
Well, Loudoun Valley, they are very good. Their D played well today. Our offense, as long as we moved the ball, we did fine. We just needed to keep on getting the ball moving around in a circle, and instead of being selfish and just going to the goal right away. We found out that one more pass was the way to go, and it helped us score a bunch of goals.
Coach, you have a very balanced attack. Can you talk a little bit about all the different players that were able to find a way to contribute today on offense, including, of course, our player of the game?
Yeah, I think that's one thing that we stress all the time. A lot of the offenses that we run are really based on all 6 guys getting involved. And so, we focus on ball movement and things like that to try to open up opportunities. I think we did a better job of that in the second half. In the first half, we didn't do a very good job getting guys involved. But I certainly think when we have all 6 guys playing well, we're hard to stop.
And a couple of your defenders trying to get into the offense a little bit. Can you talk a little bit about them and their efforts stepping up, finding the back of the net?
Well, I think they bailed us out a little bit early because our offense took a little while to get going. But one thing we do work on and focus on is transition. And just like our offensive guys, we talk about having good sticks and things like that. The same goes for our defensemen. And we certainly tell them if you see an opportunity to push, you got to make a good decision. But I think their defensemen were so good and kind of keyed on our offensive guys that it gave them opportunity to take some high percentage shots. So we'll let them take them and hope for the best.
Now, David, how important is it to play competition like this at this juncture of the season? Obviously, you guys looking towards the postseason, looking to improve.
Well, this just gets us ready for playoffs. This is exactly what we wanted, and he wanted to get us ready for. Big crowd. We kind of needed to focus and tune in on the game and keep our focus in on the game, and this got us ready for what we're going to step into.
And, Coach, obviously both teams play very aggressive, very physical style. Can you talk a little bit about what it was like out on the field today for the players?
Well, I can, speaking for us, I was pretty pleased with how hard we played. And I don't think we played the smartest at all times, but I think we played very hard, and we had to. I mean, they're tremendous athletes on their team, especially on the defensive end, as you spoke about, but they've got some offensive kids, and they cover field well. They've got good speed. So, we talked about the importance of being physical and kind of matching that intensity. I thought both teams did a great job in that regard in terms of just effort and going after ground balls and things like that. I thought both teams played great.
All right, a decisive win today for St. Stephen's and St. Agnes. All right, so we've talked a lot about the boys. So, guys, let's talk a little bit about the girls and the Triple Edge Girls Lacrosse Report.
All right, Monica, thanks a lot. Yeah, let's jump right into the top 10 rankings for the Triple Edge Girls Lacrosse. Madison, no doubt about it, number one. You see Langley, Oakton, Chantilly. What teams kind of jump out for you?
Well, right off the bat, obviously Madison, undefeated, number one all year. They're number one in the state of Virginia, basically, if you go to the Lax Power rankings. So they're the obvious choice. But, you look at Langley, you look at Oakton, you look at Chantilly, you look at Stonebridge. All those teams have played, Madison pretty well. It's interesting if you go back and you look at Madison, they beat Langley 12-11 early in the season. They beat Oakton, 15-12. They beat Stonebridge 14-12. So that tells me that, they might be the clear-cut number one, but those other teams played them very well. And, come tournament time, anything can happen.
Let's take a closer look at Madison right now. They are 11-0, perfect, averaging 17-plus goals per game. 7 players have scored at least 10 goals. Their defense allows less than 7 goals per game. They've had big wins. You mentioned Langley, Oakton, Stonebridge, Robinson, Woodson. Allie Bedden has 11 goals in the last 3 games. So, they are, the best team in this area, possibly the state. But looking at the Liberty District, you mentioned it. If you jump back into the rankings, 3 of the top 5 teams are from that Liberty District: Madison, Langley, Stonebridge.
Yeah.
So it's a tough district for sure for girls lacrosse, but don't forget about the Concord. They got Oakton and Chantilly 3-4 right there.
Right, and both those teams are pretty darn good too. If you go back and look at some of their scores, Oakton is very tough. They've lost to Madison 15-12. Their other losses have come against Vero Beach, Florida, St. Stephen's, St. Agnes, and then you got Loudoun Valley in there, So, and Loudoun Valley within the state of Virginia in Lax Power is ranked number 2. So, that tells me, again, I always say that. I love that term. I don't know why, but because I get my brain working. But that tells me that Oakton can sneak up on Madison if Madison's not careful. But they won't see them until, the region. But that Concord District, that could be Chantilly, that could be Oakton. You look at Robinson even. It's the same thing in the boys. It's the same thing. Though any one of those top 3 teams can beat one of the other ones.
Taking a look at the bottom half of these rankings, you see the Patriot District represented with W.T. Woodson and West Springfield. Westfield in there from the Concord, and Yorktown from the National District there at number 9. But let's jump into some of these games going into the April 30th game, Stonebridge against Fairfax, a Liberty District matchup. The Bulldogs winning 14-3. Lauren Giusti with 8 goals, 1 assist. 8 goals for Lauren. She's had 11 goals in the last 2 games. So the Bulldogs are clicking for sure, keeping things going. Let's jump into Langley playing the Northwest Region's Battlefield, and Battlefield coming out on top. Battlefield's Caitlin Hester, the goalie, had 14 saves on 19 shots, and for Fairfax, Elspeth McGarry with 1 goal, and that's Langley. Elspeth McGarry with 1 goal and 3 assists, Jill Canning 2 goals, and Mary Riley Pembroke with 9 saves. Battle of offenses there over the last 5 games. Langley came in with averaging 18 goals per game, and Battlefield was averaging 20 goals per game. So low-scoring contest.
And you get an 8-5 game, right?
You can't
go
really
figure.
Yeah, exactly. So there's Langley losing to Battlefield. Let's keep things moving here with Stonebridge and Chantilly. And that's Chantilly picking up a nice win over Stonebridge, 8-7. So Stonebridge had that big win early on against. Actually, the big win came the day after they played Chantilly, but Chantilly with the big win there.
Yeah, and Chantilly, there's a reason why they're good. Both in the boys and the girls, they've got great coaching over there as well. And they're the number 3 seed in the Concord, but evident by that win over Stonebridge, you just don't know. You just don't know. Now, they got to play Centerville first. Take care of Centerville, and then they're going to have to play Westfield because Westfield has the bye in that district. But it's interesting. Westfield got the number 2 seed. Chantilly got the 3 seed, but in the poll, Chantilly's ranked 4th, and Westfield's ranked 8th. So,
coaches seem to think the records don't matter as much.
Sometimes it doesn't.
They're seeing these teams.
Sometimes it doesn't.
Exactly.
There could be other factors. There could be an injury here. There could have been an injury there. There could have been, anything really. Maybe they had a bad night when they played Westfield.
The record doesn't show that, but certainly the coaches showing who they think is one of the top teams. That's Chantilly there at number 4. But let's jump into the Liberty District tournament pairings for May 6th. South Lakes against Madison, Fairfax against Langley, McLean at Stonebridge, and Jefferson at Marshall. Again, looking at it again, that 4-5 game, that looks to be the interesting game.
Yeah, and you know what? I think all across the board, in every district, both boys and girls, that 4-5 game can go either way. And again, here in the Liberty, Marshall beat TJ 16-13 early in the year. 3 goals, that can be done in a minute. So again, the 4-5 game here, and it could be TJ winning by 3 this time.
Let's jump real quickly into the Patriot District tournament pairings. You have Lee at Woodson, TC at West Springfield, West Potomac at Annandale, and Lake Braddock at South County. I'll let you pick out the one game you think is going to be big there.
Well, after looking through things, after hearing a few things from some of the coaches, they were saying that, again, that 4-5 game, and that is the South County Lake Braddock game. South County beat them 12-6. Lake Braddock has played better as of late. So, it could be a swing. The other games, not so much maybe. I'm not going to say they can't win because you just don't know. But that would probably be the one that's tougher to call than the other ones.
We were very lacrosse heavy this week as the district tournaments are starting. Let's jump into the Concord District real quick and run off those pairings. Oakton and Westfield have the bye. Centerville against Chantilly, great neighborhood rivalry, and Herndon at Robinson. Let's keep things moving with the National District. That's Wakefield at Yorktown, Stewart at Hayfield, Mount Vernon over at Washington and Lee, and Edison against Falls Church. Those semifinals are on the 10th, and the finals at Yorktown High School starting at 5 o'clock. Yeah. So that is that. Any game stand out?
Yeah. In the national, and it's really interesting. We keep talking about the 4-5, but in that district, that 3-6 game with Washington and Lee and Mount Vernon, they played to a 10-9 ball game early in the year. Okay, that Washington and Lee had won. So that might be a game to look at. Really, it could go either way there. And then the Falls Church Edison game was 10-8 earlier in the year to Falls Church. So, that's 2 games really that could go either way.
All right, let's kick it right back to Monica Moore.
All right, well, Phil, you talked about that Loudoun Valley team. We have highlights of their matchup against St. Stephen's and St. Agnes last Friday. This was really a battle of two Titans. Loudoun Valley getting the scoring started with Shannon Harkey. That goal called back on a crease violation. Otherwise, the Vikings would have had a 2-0 lead, but instead Riley Woodman bound for Georgetown, number 12 for the Saints, answering, and then Carly Reed. You're going to want to keep your eye on number 1 in green, Carly Reed, only a freshman for St. Stephen's and St. Agnes. She was a huge difference maker in this one. Woodman, number 12, getting on the scoreboard again, and then Kelsey Horton, number 23. The Saints rattling off 5 goals before finally Sophie Swan able to find an answer for Loudoun Valley, and then Sophie Swan catching on fire, number 2 for the Vikings. Michelle Phillips going through every single defender to get past the goalkeeper, Kelsey Luck. Nice free position shot right there for Shannon Harkey. And then on offense, once again, Harkey looking to get her team fired up. One of the seniors on this team heading off to play at the next level. Nice shot there by Morgan Becker, number 5. And then once again, Sophie Swan, but just not enough. Loudoun Valley took a 2-goal lead, but then the Saints came racing back during the second half. Just too much offense. Kelsey Horton, it seemed like every time Loudoun Valley tried to put the nail in the coffin, St. Stephen's and St. Agnes responded, and there you see their final score. I was able to talk with Kelsey Horton and Kathy Jenkins after the game.
Well, Kelsey, you guys had a great effort today against a Loudoun Valley team that really came out fighting. They scored the first goal. Can you talk a little bit about your team's composure?
Well, they came out really hard, and we just had to stay strong and keep up with that, and then come back and get the win.
Now, one of your big strengths is finding your open teammates for the goals. Can you talk a little bit about your strategy as you try to find your teammates cutting towards the goal?
Well, they just do all the work. They do all the cutting. I just try to find them and get a quick, good, easy goal.
And obviously, you also got to work out in the draw circle today. Can you talk a little bit about what the battle was like for the draw controls?
Oh, yeah. Well, they kept switching up the drawers, and they were all pretty strong drawers, so I just had to strategize and try to win it for us. Yeah.
Coach, another player that had a big game was your freshman, Carly Reed. Can you talk a little bit about that steal at the end, which I thought was one of the biggest moments of the game?
So athletic, and she's so fast, and so we know she can come up with them. Sometimes she's almost too quick. So we just told her, come back to the ball, go hard, pick it up, know you have the ball, then take off. So I thought she did a much better job with that in the second half.
Obviously, Loudoun Valley kept making runs. What were you saying to your team during the second half?
Well, defensively, we wanted them to get at the 8 and be there to pressure. And also, as they started to make their drive to the goal, we would slide, but then the next slide didn't come. And I think our girls were so worried about the person they were guarding, they didn't see that there was an open girl. So we talked a lot about that second slide, which normally we're very good at, but they were very quick, and they had the second girl coming was a very good attack player. So it put us on our toes a little bit, or on our heels, whatever you'd say.
And other than getting the win, what were you most pleased with about your team's performance?
Our second half comeback, we've done that about 4 times this season. We've been down by 3 or 4 goals in the last 6 or 7 minutes of comeback. And so they don't really get down. They believe in themselves, and they know they can come back. So it's been great.
A hard-fought win for St. Stephen's and St. Agnes.
All right, well, we talked a lot about the Madison girls lacrosse team, the Madison girls soccer team, also having a sensational season so far behind their defense. I was able to catch up with a couple of the Madison defenders this week in the Players Lounge. The Madison girls soccer team, Anne-Marie Irwin and Claire Krejci, 2 members of the defense for this Madison Warhawks team that's only allowed 6 goals so far this season. And so, Claire, a lot of people have been talking about your defensive unit. What do you think are the things that make you guys such a great team working together on defense?
Well, for one thing, we're a really close-knit defense. We play a flat back 4. And what makes us really work that system is that we talk a lot. Well, maybe that's room for improvement, but we work well together, and we do work well in our system, so that helps us.
We also have a lot of experience.
Yeah, exactly. Like, KG's been on the team all 3 years of her high school career, so I mean, yeah, it works out that way.
I know it always helps when you've been playing together for a while and you have that chemistry. And Anne-Marie, I know that you're not just a defender, but some people have taken note of the fact that you've scored a couple of goals this year for your team. So do you think you catch the defenses of the other team off guard when you push up front to score some goals?
Well, actually, most of the goals I've scored, I've been pushed into the midfield. So my coach has taken me from defense and played me midfield. And I think it's neat to play offense because then I get a chance to exploit what I know on defense against the other defenders.
Well, I know that one thing that goalkeepers always love is having an experienced back line in front of them. And so, Claire, could you talk a little bit about your goalkeeper, Nadia Shabaro, and what her style is in the goal and how you guys work together?
Yeah, she works pretty well with us. I mean, she is kind of quiet, but that works because she does step to the ball when we have through balls going through. So she helps us a lot there on defense since we're a flat back four.
And another player on your team that's really stepped up this season has been Belle Tunstall coming off the bench. I know that gives you guys a huge spark. So,
our secret weapon.
So what's it like to have a player be able to come in and give you that lift off the bench?
We have incredible depth on our team. Anybody can come in and be extremely effective. Belle especially is a great example. She's able to come in and score a gazillion goals, and it's really neat what we have this year.
Well, and so looking at your schedule so far, the only loss so far, the only blemish on the resume is the Stonebridge game, one of the top teams in the Liberty District. You may get another crack at them later on. But so, Claire, what do you think were the things you did well in that game and the things that you could have improved on?
Well, we held them in the first half. It was still tied. So I think mostly what it was is after they scored against us the first time, we had a mental breakdown and we allowed them to score again. So I really think it was a mental game against them that's why we lost. So I think if we go into the next game, if we get a chance to play them again, if we go in with the mindset that we can beat them, because I believe we can, I think that'll help us.
But not as intimidated.
Yeah.
Next time.
Exactly.
Well, it's always easier, too, when you've seen someone before, you know the personnel, you know a little bit more about them. So the Liberty District obviously is going to be a great tournament this year amongst those teams, and you've already faced a lot of them in your Liberty District season, and I know a big win for you guys was McLean, another top team in the area. You had a win over Oakton, non-district. So what do you think the things are that have helped you beat big teams like Oakton, McLean so far on your resume, Anne-Marie?
I think what's really neat this year is we're able to keep possession a lot more, and so working the ball around has definitely impacted our game positively.
And so a couple more Liberty District contests to go before that tournament starts. So Claire, are there any specific things you guys are still working on or focusing on trying to propel you into that Liberty District tournament?
Yeah, we're definitely working on talking up our communication, because that'll help us. It also gets our mind into the game. And also not ever underestimating a team. So always putting our best foot forward.
It's always something in the postseason that becomes important because everything's on the line and teams really do step it up. And so you guys have been big parts of this Madison team. What has been one of the biggest highlights for you, Anne-Marie, of your career with Madison so far?
I think this year has been like the best year so far. Everyone works so well together. There's so much team cohesiveness that I just enjoyed the team chemistry on and off the field. We're always having fun. We've been playing like really creative games that Coach M and Coach Keiknall and our other coaches come up with, and like we played handball the other day and stuff. So we're just having a lot more fun than usual, and it's great.
Excellent. Did you guys do things together during the off season as well to keep up that team chemistry that seems to be working so well for you?
We didn't do much. I mean, there's been pickup with a lot of Madison players, but it's more optional. But we didn't do much with like the team. Maybe did we do indoor? Some?
Indoor game stuff.
So Claire, what's been the highlight for you so far of your career with the Madison team?
Well, this year has definitely been a strong year, but 2 years ago we won the district champs, and so that was a huge excitement. I mean, I will remember that for a long time. So I'm definitely looking forward to winning a big game like that this year.
And obviously you guys are two of the big leaders on this Madison team. So Anne-Marie, talk a little bit about your senior class and the leadership role that you all as seniors have on this team.
Well, we have an incredibly old team, 8 seniors, and so there's a ton of leadership, and everyone, that keeps us really focused in practice and in the games. It's great because everyone's really serious and everyone wants to go far their last year, so they're getting everyone else involved.
All right, and one question I always like to ask, particularly defensive players, is, so Claire, I'll start with you. What advice would you give to younger players who are playing on defense that you think is good things for younger players to focus on?
That's a tough one. Definitely I'd say work your hardest, and when you get put in, always give it 100%. Because, yeah.
And what would you say, Emery?
Well, me personally, I always have trouble because I really like dribbling and stuff, and I've been playing on forward, like more forward lately, getting rid of the ball quickly. So, yeah.
All right.
Like looking up and getting your closest option.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us. We wish you guys the best of luck throughout the rest of the season.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so Madison having a great season with soccer. Let's take a quick run around the rest of the region. Starting, we talked about the Charlie Buck Regatta a couple weeks ago, previewing it. TC Williams getting the big win, their first place in the women's first 8 event. McLean not able to participate in that Final Four. One of their athletes, Margaret Harlow, suffering a back injury, so had to scratch. But TC Williams just edging out Yorkton in the girls' first 8. Now let's talk a little bit about the boys. Always exciting. St. Albans edging out Gonzaga, and it was especially a sweet victory for them because they were supposed to race earlier in the day to compete against each other for the Foley Cup. Officials decided to only have one race, so that race would also decide the Foley Cup. St. Albans taking it home. Yorktown and Washington Lee rounding out the top 4. Now let's turn to softball. Big Concord District matchup. Westfield, Paul, with the big win.
Yeah, real quickly, Westfield beating Centerville 5-0. Centerville beat Westfield earlier on in the year. Alex Tenney, the starting pitcher for Westfield, 12 strikeouts, 2 hits, so a fantastic performance. And now Westfield, they seem to be clicking here a little bit heading into the district tournament.
All right, let's preview our Verizon Fios games of the week. This Friday, big doubleheader over at McLean. Langley scoring off against McLean, both the boys and the girls. Langley's boys team had a huge win over Stonebridge earlier this week.
Yeah, Langley now the top team in the area. Stonebridge was. Langley took it over with a 2-1 win over the Bulldogs.
All right, and then 2 weeks from now, we will be at the Liberty District Lacrosse Championships for the Verizon Fios Game of the Week, both boys and girls. Things kick off at 5 p.m., and then the second game to follow. Well, before we go, once again, we want to thank the folks that make our program possible, our good friends at CCI Screen Printing, and of course, both Craig Strabutzel and Dan Sousa for the fantastic photos. Great Triple Edge lacrosse segment this week, sponsored by Triple Edge. Don't forget you can get copies of this program at PressBoxVideo.com. Check out our website and also become a fan of the Fairfax Sports Network on our Facebook page. Finally, please do send us any comments, suggestions, or story ideas you have. Well, thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next week here at the Northern Virginia Sports Report.